Hey, this is Joanna Angel here, and you're listening to Interview Under Fire Deep Cuts.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new edition of Interview Under Fire Deep Cuts, where we once again dive backstage away from the musician life to focus on other artists and their work. This is your host, Sunny, along with a very special guest, this time with award-winning adult film star, director, producer, best-selling author, entrepreneur, feminist icon, a legend in her craft, Joanna Angel. I hope I did the introduction justice.
You did it perfectly. Thank you.
This is quite the honor. Thank you so much for joining our podcast today in IUF. You know, this is an important yet exciting time of the year for you with the release of your newest book, Club 42, which I have right here.
Yay!
Just published on February 9th or 16th, something.
16th, I think, was the official publication date. Yeah,
on Cleis Press. Or is it Cleis? I always mix that. Okay, Cleis Press. Yeah. And I want to say, you know, congratulations on all the well-deserved reactions it's been getting so far. Shout outs to Fat Mike from NoFX, Buck Angel, Ellie Stranger, Chris Narocco, who've all praised this one hell of an entertaining read. And there's just so much I want to unravel about this. But before we get to that, I'm going to start off with a very simple question. We talked about it before the interview. How are you, considering where we are at our lives at this point? I think it's an important one to ask, but it's a simple one. How are you? How's life in California?
I'm doing okay. You know, look, I've been very, very fortunate, very privileged that I've been okay throughout this pandemic. You know, I don't take it for granted, and I feel like I'm speaking from a place of privilege. You know, throughout the whole shutdown, I was able to do a lot at home, production had started again, and porn sets are small enough where it's easy to abide by to make everything COVID safe. Not necessarily easy, but possible. Something like a nightclub is not possible, or a show, a concert. Other things again, but with porn sets, once production started sometime in like November, we've all had COVID testing, and it's we're able enough to keep the crews small enough where we can kind of get back to normal in our own way. So I feel very privileged, and so I've been doing fine very well, actually. Yeah. And I'm very thankful.
Yeah, and making
I hate saying that, then I feel like I really feel for all the people that aren't doing so fine. And, I feel for all the people that work in entertainment that haven't been able to entertain, and people who work, in jobs that aren't okay. So I'm very thankful that I am okay.
Yeah, no. And you've said it best, making the best of this situation is what we have to do. Is easier said than done. We're almost a year removed from the usual routine that we're used to, and something I did forget to mention, happy International Women's Day. I think it's
thank you,
important one to talk about, considering how much of an advocate you are for women's rights and human rights, and of course animal rights as well. But much respect to you for everything you've done. Now, I know that almost every interview you've done, Joanna, it's been this topic that's been the popular one for you, and you called this the Stone Age, and this has been a popular thing. What goes through your mind when you hear the numbers 420 2002?
That's when Burning Angel started.
Yeah, and
my life never became the same.
And this was a lot of people say, and it is revolutionary for the industry. You were dubbed the punk rock princess, and you started your own brand before the social media age, and you still adapted to the changing of times today. You ever gone back to visit that dorm or just that school in recent times?
Oh, I have. Yeah.
How is that? You just stand there just like, wow.
Well, it's kind of fun. I get like there's a porn convention, before COVID, that I used to go to every year, that's in New Jersey, in it's in like close to New Brunswick. So I'd always get Rutgers students coming, and they'd give me Rutgers newspapers to sign. I actually found that I'm on like there's like a Rutgers celebrity alumni list somewhere, and I'm on there with like, I think Kim Cattrall and all these like, big time yeah, James Gandolfini, may he rest in peace.
Oh man.
He's on there too, so that's pretty cool that I'm on there. I've done like interviews with so many like Rutgers, university like students and stuff. And Vice did a documentary on me once, where they actually had me go back to the house I used to live in. I mean, granted, I couldn't go inside, but they took me to like all my old stomping ground places in New Brunswick. So yeah, it's been pretty cool. I wasn't thinking I was going to leave Rutgers as some kind of like legend there, but I guess people talk about me.
I mean, I feel like, the most unexpected things are the most exciting ones. I mean, here I am, doing like, and I didn't know I was gonna be doing interviews like 3-4 years ago, and here I am, making my own brand, and
Yeah, it's exciting when you happen and it's actually working.
And Burning Angel, is a company known for the emergence. One of the things Burning Angel is known for is the emergence and prevalence of tattooed women in the film industry. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't have many tattoos at that time, right? When you started off?
It's so weird because I didn't have many, but I was the most heavily tattooed girl in porn. Kind of funny, because when Burning Angel first started, it was more about being punk, but that wasn't something that really other people understood, like especially in the industry. We were much like punk porn. So over time, it just became tattoo porn to like the world. That kind of became the visual thing people could latch on to.
Or what is it? Alt porn? They called it that too.
Yeah, alt porn, whatever, but yeah, some of the early Burning Angel girls barely had any tattoos, but they had like a punk look, So I can't, but yeah, then I don't know. Became known as tattoo porn and alt porn, and I don't really know. Then it just kind of stood on its own as Burning Angel.
Here's the thing: there are specific tattoos that have important stories behind why it's even there. At least most of them. My friends are all inked up, and you have a lot of ink now. And is there one you can show right now that as to why it's so important to you?
I've always been one of those people. A lot of my tattoos are just cool visual things. I mean, I do have a tattoo. I can't really show it. I guess it's on my leg, and it's not in a place. It's I got my wedding date tattooed to me, so that one was, meaningful. I have a very small tattoo. It's like a little stick figure drawing of me and my two sisters, and we all have it. And that's actually for my sisters. It's their only tattoo, so that's pretty cool.
Wow, that definitely has meaning to it.
Yeah. So those two are meaningful. The other ones, a lot of them are just like visuals I thought were cool, or have like, whatever. I've never really been like I feel like that became a thing with reality TV. Like you go into a tattoo shop and you tell them your story, and they're like, well, let's tattoo it. Like that doesn't really happen.
And bam, there's a documentary right there. I bet you can find a bunch of those right now. Just clicking on YouTube. Yeah.
I remember the tattoo artist friends I had like right around the time when like LA Ink became like the biggest show. Like tattoo artists were like,
oh gosh, MTV and Fuse.
Yeah, but I remember my tattoo artist friends being like, everyone's coming in and like telling me stories, and it's like weird. Like they almost like tattoo artists didn't sign up to be like therapists.
Oh man, that's I have a friend who actually owns a tattoo shop here in Dallas, and like he was talking about how he felt like a therapist, and it's like well, I didn't realize I'd be doing this,
sitting there with someone for hours.
That is true, and then they would come back and maybe redo the ink and just add other things. Again, that's like a whole different episode. We're talking about just tattoos. And we briefly touched on this, life as of late, many of us have also been away from what we love doing the most in our daily profession. For example, this is a heavy metal podcast, a music podcast. So the fans and musicians alike, there haven't been any tours, like they're not. That's the one thing.
I have a lot of friends, obviously, that work in the music industry who are great, and especially the artists can be fine. The artists can do a lot. They can record, they can
live streams,
this and that. But it's more like the people, the underdogs that people don't think about. All the tour managers, the lighting guys, the sound people, all the organizers of the people that make the tours happen. Those are the ones. It's like they can't do, they can't hop on Instagram live and do something. They can't like get paid to do something on Zoom or like whatever, so it's that I feel really bad for those people. Like all the artists, even though they miss going on tour, essentially they can be fine,
Yeah.
But like,
I mean, if you're like the Metallicas and Slipknots, I feel like they're okay, but then
they'll be fine no matter what. They don't have to work a day in their life again. They probably enjoyed the time off.
Yeah. I mean, that's also a common answer. Another common answer I get, it's funny we're talking about this because
I enjoyed some of the shutdown, and I felt guilty enjoying it. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, and we've had bands, like August Burns Red and Lamb of God, and bands on this show. They talked about their experience live streaming. Some of them say, "Oh yeah, I love to do live streaming. It's a way for me to engage with the fans." And some of them say, "Oh, I'm not doing shit until all this is over." So it's always
Right.
interesting to hear that. But about you, Joanna, you've been in the adult film life for like 20 years. What have you seen that's happened with others in the industry like today? Like, has anything changed for your routine wise lately, if at all? Like, because we're talking about a
I
year
mean,
removed from this whole
things are
experience.
things are pretty back to normal now. There's just a lot of
Hmm.
extra testing.
Yeah. Vaccines
Yeah,
are coming out. So,
vaccines are coming out, but yeah, for it was just a lot of like everybody had to get COVID tested every day before set, and then there'd be like people be sitting in their cars waiting for the COVID test to come back, and some shoots were getting messed up because of it. But aside from that, we've been very lucky.
yeah.
We were able to kind of go back to normal, and then even during the shutdown, companies were paying people to shoot at home. Everybody was doing their own, like, all the performers were doing their own like content pages, like OnlyFans and stuff like that sort of exploded. So I don't know. We were all kind of okay. I mean, I think the worst
Yeah.
problem was being bored or stir crazy or missing traveling or something, but everybody was for the most part okay.
I don't know how it was for you. Like the first month or two, I was actually okay. Like I was able to get shit done that I didn't know I'd be getting
Oh,
done.
I love it.
I'm like, this is great. Like I found myself baking cookies. I never do
Oh,
that.
I
And I,
did. I know. In fact,
and
I said to someone the other day, I'm like, well, it's March now. Any day now, should the world be shutting down? Because I'm getting kind of tired. Can't we just continue this schedule where we work our asses off January and February and half of March, and then we take the rest of the year off? I'm okay with that. I feel like my body is like ready to go back into shutdown because it's about this time. I'm like, is this happening? Because I'm really busy right now and I'm kind of tired and I could use another shutdown.
and I remember like the third month went by and then the fourth month went by. I'm like, okay, I have to start a routine here where I'm not just in bed all day and trying to find a way to be productive. I walk my dog and just, try to see how I can be productive around the community. It's challenging, and of course, things are I
Yeah, I
mean,
taught a lot of stuff at home, so I find myself pretty busy.
yeah, that's good. And you talked about this just for a second, OnlyFans, which is only what, 4 or 5 years old. And
Yeah,
for anyone who doesn't know, it's a
yeah,
content subscription service. Content creators can earn money from users who subscribe to the content, the fans, and it's popular in the adult film business and among sex workers. Of course, there are other genres such as physical fitness experts,
yeah.
musicians,
Make
yeah, creators who post
yeah.
regularly online. So what I'm trying to get at is I wonder what your thoughts are on that, coming from someone who's pretty much changed and revolutionized the industry. In reality, you built an empire in 2002.
Did. And you know what? I guess during the shutdown and with this new emergence of I don't know if you knew this, like I sold Burning Angel 2 years ago. And granted, I
Yeah,
still
yeah.
direct for Burning Angel. I just made a very big project for it. But it's uh I'm glad I don't own a studio in these times.
Hmm.
So when I had to stop directing for Burning Angel for during the shutdown, it was not like, since I didn't own it, it was sort of the people who own it now. It was their job to figure out what to do, at least
Yeah,
financially. For me, it
yeah.
was fine. I'm very grateful um, that I don't own it. I guess I sold it at the right time.
That's the
Always,
timing was just impeccable.
yeah.
And
There was always part of me that always wondered, like, did I do the right thing by selling it? I always like kind of wondered if I was like some kind of sellout or I don't know. But no, I'm glad because and now I'm very active on OnlyFans. But I'm still directing and doing other things too. But um if I hadn't have sold my studio, I wouldn't have been able to jump on this OnlyFans bandwagon, and I'm glad I'm able to because it's really fun and it's great, and it's something. It's given me a little more flexibility. Like I could travel and do whatever I want, and
yeah,
be able to shoot my updates. I'm not married to always needing to do my work in LA with a crew. So it's cool. It's given me more flexibility. It's allowed me to work from home more. Um, but yeah, so now I'm very much doing both, but I cut my directing down a little bit, but still not, so I'm directing really like 3-4 days a month, which doesn't sound like a lot, but there's so much pre-production that goes into it. So I'm always
of
kind of
course.
working on, and then the rest of the time I'm working on my OnlyFans and stuff like that. So
Hey, I went to film school.
cool.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I know the two things, like like also a lot of my fans are very interested in my directing, so I can film stuff on set of me directing and interviewing talent and stuff like that, and then I can post it on my OnlyFans too, so I can kind of hit two birds with one stone. And like OnlyFans is like a thing that can kind of always exist no matter what else you're doing. It's it's a cool thing to just be able to have no matter what.
So be able to, it's safe to say that OnlyFans did have a positive impact in the porn industry, like
Well,
even going forward.
On performers, on the talent, it's definitely had a negative effect on a lot of studios. And I think a lot of the bigger studios are trying to figure out how to deal with it, because a lot of the content people want now is homemade, and a lot of these studios, they make big productions. But what I think is mostly happening now, like a lot of the middle studios have gone away. So I think people either want big time studio porn or OnlyFans porn. You know what I mean? I mean, the people who benefited from it were the performers. It's definitely confused a lot of studio heads, which is why I'm glad I don't own one anymore.
Speaking of another thing you own, Doom's Whiskey, how's that going? Because that also is owned by you and your husband Aaron.
Yeah, it's kind of like a passion project of ours, but it's doing okay. We're trying more traction on it. The liquor industry is a lot more complicated than I thought it would be, but it's out there, it exists, and we have plans to do a little more with it in the future.
Yeah. Has the pandemic had an effect on it at all, or is it just business as usual, or has it been business as usual?
But actually, a lot of liquor stores picked up business. So while we lost those sales in bars and restaurants and stuff, we were able to pick up a couple more accounts at like liquor stores. So I don't know.
Let's get into one more thing, because I know you are a healthy eater as well. You talked about making junk dishes healthy. What's on the menu today for you?
Oh, I mean, just before I talk to you, I take these like those no carb noodles.
Yeah.
I've gotten, and they don't taste very good in the bag, those shirataki noodles, but
I know exactly what you're talking about. Are you vegan, by the way?
What?
Are you vegan, by the way?
No, I'm not vegan.
Okay.
I was younger, but yeah, no, and so I guess for lunch, I made my own healthy version of a carbonara, where I took like a egg and I just like kind of poached it.
Yeah.
And put it on top of the shirataki noodles. That I rinsed them. I kind of put them in a pan to get all the bad smell out. And then I put it, and it was just like the egg yolk and a little bit of olive oil and like salt and pepper on there. So it was like my healthy, 200 calorie version of a 1,500 calorie dish.
I wonder if this is something is this like an OnlyFans thing as well? I feel like it could be very beneficial for that, like exclusive recipes by Joanna Angel. I can just see that.
Another thing I can do. Yeah. I should do it.
Yeah. And then speaking of all the impact the industry has had, you talked about, 2012, you were also crowned that legendary Triple Play Award by Night Moves, for your accolades as director, performer, and exotic dancer, which we'll touch on exotic dancer in a second.
Right. But yeah, the reason why I included that in the bio is just, a lot of people, I don't really talk about my exotic dancing very much. And it was always something that was really important to me.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time at strip clubs, obviously. So I was able to, that's why I had so much knowledge to write this book. And I had a lot of my very transformative years, at a strip club. And I learned a lot about myself there. So it was really fun to write about, really capture that.
All right, let's go ahead and get into the stuff right now. Speaking of exotic dancer, that new book, Club 42, yes. Choose Your Own Erotic Fantasy. It came out mid-February in Cleis. Joanna, I'm gonna need some carrot juice if you don't mind, just to get.
Yes, naked carrot juice. You read the book. I'm so happy. So happy.
This is exactly. So hard. This is the good stuff right here. By the way, I love naked juice. By the way, this is because I have a Sprouts that's right across the street, and I mean, there's just it was hand to hand. And for people who don't know, this is the follow up to the 2018 book Night Shift, which is your first book, and that was also.
The two are not. They're just in the same style. They're not the same characters. One's not a continuation. Right. They're just like whatever.
Yeah, but having said that, that book was also, I believe, is on Cosmopolitan's list for like legitimately good erotic novels that you must read.
Yeah, it was like the top 35 or 36 erotic novels of all time or something. Like I was on the list with like.
That's a huge step for you as a writer.
Yeah, forget what like legendary books were on there, but there was like some all like some really amazing like books that are part of history were on that list. I can't remember them now. I actually remember Lolita was on the list, which was one of my favorite books growing up, but then they took it off because I guess you can't really like about it anymore because it's a book about an old man having sex with a young woman. But like, I read it in college and it was a beautiful novel, but I guess they don't have it in college curriculums anymore. But I actually remember that was on the list. I was like, what? Lolita by Nabokov? That's like part of, as an English major, it was like one of the most important books written, but it was taken off the list. So maybe I shouldn't put that, but
no, I mean, it's an important point. I mean, it's something that you're very impacted by, with all this, cancel culture that I can talk about that, that's going on as well.
Whether, look, I get it. I mean, there's definitely things in that book that are not acceptable to talk about today. But in the context that it was written, it was done beautifully. It wasn't written.
Yeah,
whatever.
That's definitely one we're looking at.
Yeah. But Cosmopolitan acknowledged it as like one of the best erotic novels. And you know what? I hope they read this one because I think this one is 10 times better than my first one. I actually now look back at my first one. I'm like, everybody just second one. It's so much better than the first one.
So if I were to go and get your first one, that I can do that. Like that would be because I want to. Because now this is this. Because this was very. Yeah, this was very thinking outside the box literature style. Like I was saying that I don't usually read this genre, and it pulled me from the start. Hasn't let me go. It reminded me of those video games. If you know your video games out there, guys, like Heavy Rain and The Last of Us, where it gave you the freedom to pick which path pleases you. Knowing how successful your first book was, Joanna, was there any pressure when you decided to sit down and write again?
Oh yeah, there was a lot of pressure. I mean, because I put 100% into my first book, and I'm just the kind of person, no matter what I do, I want everything to always be better than the last thing. I feel that way about every movie I make, every scene I do, anything I do, I always want to improve. And I was like, how am I going to do better? But, just having already written a novel made me, I guess, a little bit better. Also, I had a whole bunch of reviews on the first one, and most of them were positive, but there were a few negative ones. And I'm the kind of person, like I read negative reviews and I don't
thrive off of it.
I'm like, okay, I listen to what they say, and I'm like, I'm gonna make these things that people didn't like about the first book and keep them in mind and change that about the second book.
Yeah, and you said that it was challenging. It felt like you were swimming underwater and couldn't see the top until you finished. How did you stay? I wonder, like, how did you stay focused throughout this process? Because I feel like you can be in a different mental state from like page 1 to page 50, then all the way to page 300.
It's hard, man. Writing a book is so hard. Like it takes a long time to finish. So it's almost like in that entire time, I wrote this in about 4 months, maybe 5 months, which is actually very fast. I should have taken longer. I was given a year to do it, but who really does that?
That's not bad, actually.
If you're assigned something and you have a year to finish it, are you really going to start it the next day? Like
no.
Who can?
So I always started like right at the last minute.
I know. I waited until okay, Joanna, you better get to work now. And in those 4 or 5 months, but yeah, I thought of the idea first, and I kind of had an outline, and then I just sort of let it sit for a while, and then I finally started the book months later. But so at least I had like an idea, but it's so hard, and in that time, it's like you have this unfinished project. So no matter what, if I was like out to dinner with friends, if I was like with family, if I was doing anything, like all I could think of, like, I have to finish that book. So it's very hard, like, to have a big project like that's just looming over your head, and like you're not okay until it's done.
Was there ever a theme in mind that when you like during the writing process, like a theme that you had, or did you just have that
story about a strip club? I had a few just ideas of characters and stuff, but really a lot of this book, like, it kind of just came to me as I went. I wrote outlines and didn't even use half the outlines. Like, I just kind of, a lot of them, I just kind of just went where the story took me, and things kind of came up as I went along.
And the narrative, I really love how you gave control to the reader, and it follows the journey of 25-year-old. She 25?
I think,
20, Naomi Naomi Greensfield. I'm trying to remember her
Yeah,
actual name.
yeah,
Yeah, something like
yeah.
that. It was throughout a specific timeline in New York City as she discovers and learns to become a stripper in the city that never sleeps. But it's
Mm-hmm.
just so much more to it than that
There's a lot more to it than
because
that.
what's the common saying? You want to grab the reader's attention by the first word or first sentence, whatever it was. For me, there are four things that I want to talk about because by the first two pages that really pertain to me, four things: women, film, coffee, and New York City. I've done all four, and I went to film school. I lived in New York City. Of course, I'm a coffee addict, and then women. Of course, it's just I'm like this. I feel like certain novels are made for certain people. I felt like I was one of those people meant
Yes,
to read
that's
this
awesome. That's
novel,
awesome.
and it was
Which
very.
adventure did you pick first? Did she start today or start tomorrow?
I was gonna add that was my next question because it was such a creative way to get the reader engaged. It was like a call to action. Um, because I kind of want to ask you this though. What's the okay before I answer? Considering all the press that you've been talking to, what's the most common journey path that you've heard?
Okay, everybody says they start today, which is kind of like, I love the start tomorrow path. I also love the start today, but I'm like, I really hope nobody just reads the start today one and doesn't go back and start tomorrow because they're missing
No. Like,
stuff.
now
But then
here's
you get Naomi's home life, which I think is really interesting and
yeah.
really is very important for people to read and understand what it's like to be in the sex industry and also try to have a life at home, you know?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you this, because I wanted to start Naomi's first date today because I've been going through my life contemplating this and that, and life is fucking short. You got to own the moment and
Right. So
go in
yeah,
for the kill. And I,
the one
yeah,
everybody
and,
wants.
and I love that element in the book, that whole the mistress path that I think I ended up in the mistress. That was the first
Oh,
one.
SM path,
The which
like
one?
where she works at like a dungeon. Did you get on
Yeah,
that one?
that was great.
Oh,
I mean,
I love that. Yeah, I'm so glad you
when
got there. That's a very unique little detour that you take
and
there.
I read it like late at night. It was like 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, and it was dark at my house, and I was just imagining that the lights just pulsating with like the beats in the background. And when you talked about how the room looked, it was very illustrated. Like you did a great job on that, which I take to heart. When it comes to film, I love telling the story in a colorful
Well,
way.
I come from making films, so
Yeah,
I picture everything very visually. I
yeah.
picture movies. So yeah,
And you also broke the fourth wall, which a couple of times, which was hilarious,
yeah, yeah.
And here's the thing: I have friends who've worked and are still in these industries, who from actors to dominatrixes to strippers. I'd imagine you'd have to be dead inside or have a really good sense of humor in these lines of work, right?
I wouldn't want to use the word dead
Oh,
inside,
well,
but
you know what I mean. It's like
you need to. I get it. Yeah, you kind of need to have thick skin, and you have to be able to compartmentalize
yeah.
sex in a certain way that not everybody can do. You know?
And as I was reading, I kept, there are shows I'm watching on Netflix, like WandaVision, and it was like going back and like changing the storyline. Sorry, spoiler alert. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. I love the Mortal Kombat Katana reference. That was great. Grew up playing Mortal Kombat, and I just imagine like the MK3 like character select screen, like the what is it? The music playing in the background, and that tied into another film, which was Scott Pilgrim versus the World, because I felt like if you were to shoot this like film style, I would do it from a director standpoint, do it that way. So just an idea from
Right?
director to director, if you ever think about it.
If anybody wants to buy the movie rights to this book, please, I'm here. You can call me.
Hey, this will be an all major podcast stream, so anyone's out there, reach out to Joanna.
Without the
Yeah.
book, I'll sell the movie rights to you at a great price.
Yeah, and also another, I have to talk about this, but it's gonna eat at me. Monsters Inc. It was like a new door every night. It's like a new experience,
Yeah.
because every time I went back and like revisited different parts of Naomi's
I'm
stories.
so glad you read the book right.
Yeah, and I
You
felt yeah, and I loved it. Going back was great. It was like a game that I played, and I felt every character had their own dynamic impact in the book, from Naomi to Naomi G to Leclaire to the mistress to
had a
what is it?
different.
What am I forgetting? Indica, and from
She had a
Rob.
different name in every adventure.
Yeah, and from Rob to Melody to Brandy to Rachel to Tony, TJ the DJ to Natasha, everyone played a significant part in this book. And I'm saying that because you felt that through Naomi's character. Like, okay, I know who this person is. I know their background. I cared about him, you know, like every time.
Good.
I was really excited when Melody came back. It was great. I love the relationship they had. And it was really cool to see her come back later on in the book. And something I want to talk about is, if I'm correct, this was dedicated to your sister, Sarah.
Yeah, yeah.
And the main character and characters are loosely based off of how based off of people in her life. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, it is. This the main character of the book is probably like a unity of me and my sister, because my sister lives in Brooklyn. She's a total hipster, you know, and actually she did used to work at a coffee shop in like the Upper East Side or Upper West Side or something, you know, in like a lame area of New York, because she couldn't get a job at the cool Brooklyn coffee shop.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
tell me stories every day. My sister, who is not in the sex industry, but she works as like she's like an opera singer actually. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so it's pretty cool. So, you know, but part of being like working in the arts is you're also working at a coffee shop, you know. So she always
Yeah.
had these random funny like day jobs in New York that were terrible, and she'd always talk to me about it, and I'd find them hilarious. And she was always living in these quirky, ridiculous living situations with these funny people. So I did take some, and Naomi's apartment is my sister's apartment, an exact replica of it, because my sister lives in one of these whack Brooklyn hipster railroad apartments where nothing makes any sense, you know. And it's just great for a story, you know. So
Does she know any of this? Does she know that the
no,
book?
yeah,
Okay.
I, her is my best friend.
You
I
just secretly put her life out there.
Yeah, I asked her a couple questions as I wrote it, you know, just stuff like that. And so yeah,
Yeah, you
that's
know, and the message, I think a message that I got from this book is about selling yourself. And I know that was something that was really important to you about that. And I got the message and I loved it. And like I said, it allowed you to tap into a different dimension of yourself that you may not been able to tap into before. I mean, writing, and here you are doing what you're
yeah.
doing. Like, it's like another chapter, you know, pun intended. You know, and I want to
What
talk
was
about
your favorite path? I don't know how much you've read. Did you get to
hmm,
the end of the dungeon one? I mean, that
yeah,
one's
yeah, I got the end of the dungeon one.
I love
That
the
was definitely one of my favorites. I think.
oh
Oh, you know what was funny? Well, the whole book was funny, but
right.
it's funny because like my favorite parts were like the hilarious ones, like when she
I
kicked him in
know.
the face with the with
I
the
love that.
heel.
Look,
And
and Rob was so much fun to write, and it was like
God, Rob reminded me so much of a friend I know, like, because
we all have a
we all
Rob,
have a
and
Rob, and we
we all
also,
know a Rob,
yeah,
especially if you're very intertwined in the music industry.
yeah,
And for any
definitely.
podcast, there's a path of the book where Naomi has a very handsome musician, kind of boyfriend, not boyfriend, who's sort of a fuck boy in some chapters, but in other paths, he's actually very supportive and helpful.
Yeah, he's a total gentleman in most of them,
What?
you know. He's a total gentleman in some in
Total
most of them, you
gentleman.
know.
Some
So
of it
yeah.
not, you know, and that was really fun to play with, because who doesn't love a handsome musician? It's like every woman's kryptonite.
I also love the drug ring bust. I was laughing the entire. I almost couldn't finish the chapter because of how funny it was.
That
Like,
actually happened to me when I worked at a strip club.
no
That was,
way. Well,
yeah, yeah.
but I feel like is that like a, I don't know, is that common? I'm not calling out strip clubs, but like,
Strip clubs get rated all the time. Yeah. And a
w-
lot of times they're rated for things they're not doing.
would you put yourself in Brandy's shoes or Naomi's shoes,
Let's
or
see.
who was she?
I
She was.
definitely were in like Naomi shoes. I would always just like sit back and be like, okay, when is this over? I'm just gonna not be here right now.
Or it could
As
be
much,
the other version where you're like talking to the officer. Is there anything I can do? And the officer's
yeah.
like, wait, what? Why are you
What do
talking to me? You know?
No, that did happen to me when I worked at a strip club. I remember once giving a lap dance to someone in the VIP room, or the lap dance didn't even really happen. This guy came in and like right away, he's like, can I take you to the VIP room? And I was like, okay, awesome. And I remember being so excited because, you know, going to the VIP room is a lot of money. And I was like, great. Wow. I really won this guy over. What did I do? And then I went back there and he's like, if I wanted some crack cocaine, where could I buy it? If I wanted sexual favors in exchange for money, could I do that here? And I was like, are you a robot? Like, what's going on? And I actually remember leaving the VIP room and going to the manager, and I was like, something's really weird. And then I told him, he was like, oh, fuck. He's like, okay, here's what you do, and it was like really funny. And so I always knew, I'm like, okay, anyone who's like really straightforward like that, they're an undercover cop or like something. So I used that in the book because that was just like a quirky thing.
Yeah, I love that, and I actually love I did love like I said, I talked about how excited I was to see Melody again. I love that relationship because like it was like she cared about her, and after Rob, I'm spoiling the whole book right now for everyone who's listening.
You need to know what we're talking about. Yeah.
But yeah, but and then the way that Rob acted like a total asshole, like it was over in a blink. And then Melody came, and then that relationship that they had, like you already knew like that infatuation she had for Melody. And even from the start, the way she would talk about how she was dressed to when she would go on stage, how she Naomi focused on those points. And then when you circled back around her, it's like, okay, I get it now, the relationship that you had.
But but look, in Erotica, I was trying to capture hot sex. Like some of the hottest sex you can think back on your life that you've ever had is always with the person you weren't supposed to be having it with,
Yeah, very true.
That's a certain type of sex that exists when you're in an unhealthy situation that's just so hot. And like, so I had to include that in there. I feel like too much Erotica focuses on these like froofy love stories. Sometimes someone that you're like obsessed with but not in love with, but you think that's love, that's when like you have this crazy fiery sex. So her and Naomi and Rob had great sex that was entertaining to read about. And it was funny that like, you could be reading it and be aroused by it, but at the same time you want her to leave him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was also in the back of it, like him just sitting in her apartment playing Xbox. I'm like, is she gonna do something about that? Like you get like thinking about that, and I have friends. I'm not gonna call out any friends, but I have friends who did that. Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely.
And they always stay with murder because they're handsome and they're in a band. They get like let off the hook for life. They don't have to pay rent. They don't have to like have manners or like do normal things that society has to do. They just get let off the hook. And, so we explored that in this book.
Yeah. And the last one I just finished was she left to go on tour with Rob, which was.
Oh, okay. That's the Rob.
Yeah. That was really cool. I like that too. There's so many, there's just so many good things about it. Like again, we could talk forever.
And look, I'm glad you're a man and you read it. A lot of Erotica is only made for like this like age demographic of like older women to like sit at home when their husbands are at work and masturbate to or something. And like I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make a book that men would like, that younger women would like, that gay women would like, that
just a wider demographic for everyone. Yeah. Joanna, do you see Club 42 as a snapshot of where you are in a certain time in your life looking back?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I said, it's a combination of me and my sister, but it very much reminds me of my early days entering the sex industry, so that it definitely captured, this transformative time where you go from being like an awkward teenager, even though she was in her 20s, you're in your awkward phase until when you're in high school, you're just the person that everyone tells you to be. When you're in college, you kind of do what you think you're supposed to do in college. And then when you're out of high school, you're out of college, you're put in this situation where you're like, well, who am I? What do I do? And I remember feeling that way when I finished college. I was like, all this time, I really I didn't want to be a regular girl in high school. I didn't want to be a regular girl in college. I was like an activist. I was like, I was always different. I was like in part of the punk scene and this and that. And it was a very scary moment when all these confines that you're fighting are gone and you're actually just left to like, well what am I exactly? And I happen to figure out the answers to those things in sex work. And I'm not saying that happens with everyone, but everyone can relate to that time in their life where you're like, well, what is my adult life? Like, where do I fit in and what do I do? And what do I be? Like when you don't have your parents telling you what to do and you don't have school telling you what to do, like it's almost more stressful because you're like, well, now I just have to make these decisions for myself. I can't just sit back and complain about other people. I need to be something. So yeah, I think that's a very important time in life. I mean, also night shift, the girl is in the same position in life. She finished college and she doesn't know what to do. And then she winds up working at a sex shop. And in this one, she kind of winds up, stumbling upon a strip club and working there. So yeah.
Yeah, I like to say, at some point in our lives, we all need a $20 bill fan. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes,
in the book, it talked about. She kept mentioning the $20 bill fan, the guy who threw the $20 bill on the. I was like, that stuck with me throughout the book. It's like, yeah,
you
it's
do.
important. Yeah,
a metaphor for life when you have that person that's just like, go for it. I'm there with you.
Yeah,
I got you.
From the different experiences and perspectives in your timeline that you have taken in, which we have discussed about so far, whether it's Burning Angel in your college dorm, being a multi-winning winning award like adult film star, inducted into AVN's Hall of Fame and Zerko's Hall of Fame, the praises you've received as a director, producer, best-selling author, entrepreneur. You've experienced so much in the last 2 decades and then some in your life already, Joanna. And you're one of the most humble guests I've ever had on the show.
Thank you. I'm very humble, and I really don't take any praise for granted. And I always strive to be better and better. I'm never done,
I'm going to leave you off with this. So what is the most rewarding part for someone like you who is now at this point in their career, at the same time, has been involved with so many other different aforementioned brilliant performers, actors, actresses, organizations throughout those junctures, did all that just play a part in helping you grow as a person and a professional? In other words, do you ever stop to take a look back at how far you've come?
I never did until shutdown, which I think was why I needed it. Like I like pushed go and I haven't looked back since 2002. Even after I sold my company, everyone's like, you can relax now. And I did not relax. I kept going. I didn't even treat it like I sold the company. I kept, directing. I started different, new things. And once the world shut down, that was the first time where I was like, oh, I should sit back and like appreciate what I have. And I don't know, like that was the first time I was forced to just slow down and look back at things and be proud. Part of me was a little bummed that the shutdown happened right after I finished writing the book, because I was like, I could have written this during the shutdown, but I was actually really relieved, because then I wouldn't have wanted to spend the whole shutdown writing a book. I'm glad I actually just got to like spend time in my house. It's like I bought a house 2 years ago and I worked so hard to buy this house and I never even really like appreciated it. Like I got to spend time in my house. I got to spend a lot of time with my pets. I got to like cook. I got to like, I don't know. And I was still pretty busy during the shutdown, but I think just being able to just push pause for a little while really helped me appreciate what I had. But I did have to spend some of the shutdown, not writing the book, but doing some of the edits and going back and forth. And so I finished the book. It was handed off to the editor and the editor sent it back to me 2 or 3 months later, which was mid shutdown. I don't know. In June, July or something. And that was such a great feeling, because I hadn't looked at the book for a while and I was like, this is a great book. And I'm my own worst critic. Everything I ever do, I look at and I'm like, I could have done better. I could have done better. And I read this and I was like, I'm so happy with this book. It really meant like the world to me. And
I can attest to that.
Yeah, books are hard, because musicians, which I always would get jealous of with my husband or all musician friends I've had over this, when you write a song, you could put it out there and right away you get immediate
just like that. Yeah.
Everyone's like, I love this song, or I hate this song. At least, everybody it's so easy to get people to listen to your song. And I've even learned that with adult, I've gotten very used to and almost addicted to this immediate reaction. I make a movie, it comes out within a month or two, sometimes even quicker than that. I could shoot something and put it on my OnlyFans later that day. And you get this immediate reaction, this immediate, and a book, it takes long to write. It takes long to edit. After that, it takes long to put out. And then after that, it takes a long time for people to read it. By the time it actually gets through the first round of people reading it and finishing it, it takes a long time. So I had to put that, like, that urge that I have to always get like immediate feedback kind of had to be put aside. So it feels really good to know that you've read it and you've enjoyed it, because you're a person that I would want to like it. You're a dude in the metal scene. Like, how many dudes in the metal scene read erotic novels? Like, that's heard of, you know, like,
Yeah,
so.
and here
So
it
that
is. Let's
the
make it a
world,
trend.
yes, yes. I didn't just want, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
middle-aged housewives reading. This is not for like the same people that read 50 Shades of Grey. This is supposed to be for like, you know, regular people.
yeah. And I highly recommend all my listeners to go and pick this up. You know,
Thank
you were talking about. I felt like it's easy to lose track of yourself. You know, when you're successful, and you kind
Well,
of
thank
just
you.
have to
Yeah.
push everything away and just kind of take a look at it from the outside and kind of just reassess everything that you've been through, and then go back into it. And you talked about it. I feel like this pandemic did that for you. So
It did.
did that for me too. Now,
Yeah.
this is gonna be the last one. I promise.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you go here. So I know I like to end things on a really cool note, on a funny note, technically, or actually cool note. Let's do cool, because I know you did the 10 albums that have had a huge impact on you with Knotfest.
I guess it was really fun. That was really fun to do.
Yeah.
It was stressful too. And then after I did it, I'm like, oh, I feel bad that I didn't include this one and this one. But like, it wasn't your top 10 like favorite albums. It was albums that changed you.
Yeah.
That's like, you know, so I had to really think of albums that literally changed my life.
And
you know?
you had albums that I would have had on my top 10. Like
Really?
like Weezer's Pinkerton. You had Pantera's Vulgar Display of Power. I mean, come on, I'm in Texas, for crying out loud. Pantera is what we grew up on. You had Nine Inch Nails, Pretty Hate Machine. I mean, of course, Children of Bodom, rest in peace, Alexi. You know, you had albums like Anti-Flag and Rancid, Rocket from the Crypt. I checked out Rocket from the Crypt, the Scream Dracula Scream album, and I'm like, how did I not discover this before?
Oh, you never, you know, yeah, that's
no.
so.
And so I know you already answered that question. So I know we briefly touched on film school for a little bit. So what about if you can do 10, that'd be great. 5 favorite movies you can think of at the top of your head,
Top of my head that
Yeah.
changed my.
Sure.
Okay, that impacted me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number 1, Heathers.
Oh, wow.
That movie is like, I think almost every movie I make is somehow inspired by
What
Heathers.
year was that? I'm thinking of the.
Look it up. What was it?
I'll have to.
Maybe.
I'm gonna have to.
Heathers.
You're putting together my Netflix list or the Amazon.
I love. It's dark. It's got slutty girls. It's got death. It's got, you know, it addresses like issues about suicide. It's.
No, I know about this film. Yeah, 1988. Because I remember I was telling them, like this film. It was actually one of my. When I went to film school, it was one of my, you know, their favorites. Like the people I went to film school with, they were mentioning this film. I was like, what is this? Because they were like, you know, talking about like different kinds of like dark movies that they were talking about, and this movie did come up. So you're the second person. Second time I heard this since I went to film school.
The most brilliant movie ever made. Like.
Okay, I will take your word on that. All right, you got 4 more.
Oh my God, it's so hard because I love so many movies. I mean, Halloween.
Okay.
Halloween 2. Halloween 2.
Okay.
Not
That's
Halloween.
A classic.
Was that Jamie Lee Curtis's first Halloween 2?
I believe so. I'll have to.
I loved Halloween. That was
I'll name one. American Psycho. That's in my top 5.
You love that movie?
I absolutely love that movie. Why? You don't?
Well, I mean, I love it, but I don't love it. I don't know.
I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was.
You know what? When I watched that movie, I was like, this is a dude's movie. I mean, it's
it was directed by a female. Do you know that?
Oh yeah, no, but it was written by Bret Easton Ellis. You know.
Okay, yeah.
You know,
but
yeah,
I don't know. That's just that movie. Just that
movie.
It's
a brilliant movie. I guess. Yeah. You know. I mean, Fight Club is a.
Oh, Fight Club's in my top 10. Yeah. Sorry, my voice just like jumped there. Yeah, it's in my top 10. Fincher's my favorite director of all time.
Yeah. Okay.
That's 3. You're doing good so far. This is great.
What? Let's see. For like really important movies.
Are you looking through your?
No, I'm just thinking.
Oh, okay, because my like movie rack is like right there in front of me.
I mean, one of the more recent ones, which is kind of a weird one to mention, but I actually thought it was like one of the most beautiful, touching movies I saw, was what was it? Disaster Artist about.
Oh, that's
disaster.
a great film with
really,
James
really
Franco and his brother.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really love, and I love Seth Rogen and James Franco together. They make some really brilliant stuff. I don't know, like Beetlejuice.
Okay,
Is
yeah,
all
those are all classics. We actually,
all of those can at Beetlejuice, Nightmare Before Christmas, and
yeah.
and Edward Scissorhands all all in one. Does that count as one?
No, I feel like that all sums up Joanna like in one like
Yeah.
movie binge.
And then if I'm gonna add just a wacky like Pink Flamingos, by John Waters, fucking that's a legendary one.
I'm gonna have to check out Heathers now because now you got that seeped in the back of my brain.
I mean,
but
yeah, that was like I watched Heathers so many times growing up, and like I like, I don't know, that movie like inspires everything that I
maybe
do.
it could inspire the next book. Who knows?
Yeah,
Who
right.
knows?
It inspires like all the Burning Angel movies are very like, it's like to be able to make, I don't know. And I love almost every movie, even bad ones, about like high school where like the loser becomes the winner. I mean, who doesn't love that? That's like such a
love that.
feel.
Yeah, the kind of like the underdog
like
story.
Mean Girl, all that. I mean, I feel like Heather started off that genre of like, here's the loser who now becomes the cool one.
Yeah, everyone loves a loser. I mean, that's
the craft, another one.
Yeah. Now you're going off into like.
Now
I think that may be 10 actually. I can't really keep up, but
there's so many. I love movies, and
Hey, from one film school to, or at least one film nerd to another. I love that you were able to share that.
Yeah.
Who knows? That could change tomorrow. That at least mine does. Do you have any last
That's
words?
The one thing. That's what I missed about the pandemic. I couldn't go. There's no movies coming out. There's like no movie.
Do you remember the last movie you saw in theaters?
The last movie I saw in theaters, which was like not that great of a movie, was Invisible Man.
Oh, I heard mixed.
It was okay. It was okay. But I did not know that was going to be I used to go to the movies like twice a week or something. And so now there's been no movies. It was like, but now stuff is starting to come out on HBO Max and stuff like that. But
I highly recommend you watch I Care a Lot.
Okay.
So well, I don't know if that has been a buzz around who you've seen on social media, but it's with Rosamund Pike, who's in Gone Girl, and I can't remember the other person, but it's about a person who starts her own like brand. It's a very kind of almost like I don't even know if I want to say brand, because she starts like this whole like this work business that she has, and she gets really greedy. Like she takes advantage, and then you as an audience, you kind of at a standstill. Like, should I root for this person? Should I root against this person?
Oh, that sounds really good.
So it's on Netflix. I highly recommend it. A lot of people didn't like it just because of the way she kind of just grew her into a billionaire, but it's really, the twist is crazy at the end. Anyway, before I leave you off here, this has been great. Do you have any last words? Just any shout outs, anything you'd like to plug as far as Club 42 or Doom's Whiskey, anything going forward?
Just buy my book. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter. My name's Joanna Angel. And there's links to buy my book there, but you can buy it on Amazon. It's called Club 42 by Joanna Angel. And if you feel like getting weird, join my OnlyFans.
Hey, nowadays getting weird is like the normal. So
yeah.
And everyone who's listening, this is Joanna Angel. Please, like you said, buy Club 42. I mean, take it from a metalhead. Like take it from a person who's in a film. Like,
metalhead, a film dude. If he liked it, this is not your typical erotica. So thank you. That really,
it's definitely not. Hey, you even had like bits and pieces of like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and Led Zeppelin in there. I love that.
Yep.
Yeah. And came out February 9th or 16th, I think, on Cleis Press. But buy the book. Joanna Angel, thank you from the bottom of my heart. This has been such a pleasure. You be safe out in California, and I look forward to talking to Aaron in a couple of weeks. So tell him I said hey.
Okay, thank you. You have a good day.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Fire!